Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. Today's video is going to be talking about all of the champions in Raid Shadow Legends that you can get totally free. Now, these are not necessarily temporary free champions like the fusion event that is coming up tomorrow. These are permanently free champions that every player can get, in some cases just by playing the game long enough, in other cases by completing specific tasks in order to acquire those champions. So we're going to cover basically every source where you can get a completely free champion. I'm not going to review all of the champions, but I will point out some of the champions that I think are particularly valuable and ones that you may want to start your progress on early in your account. So whether you are a new player or you are a more experienced player, there are tons of free champions out there, and Raid continues to create new free champions all of the time. So this is something that you're going to be able to continue to do for a very long time. We're going to talk about some that will even take you several years to complete, but are worth it because of how good those champions are. Okay, we're going to start with the champion that we talked about in yesterday's video, just to get this out of the way. If you haven't watched yesterday's video, I suggest you do. I'll have a card put up somewhere here. And basically that was on Razin Scarhide, and he is a permanent fusion. So we're going to jump in here to the permanent fusions and get that out of the way first. There are 3 permanent fusions in the game. You can see Relic Keeper, Razin Scarhide, and Broadmaw. But even though we call them all permanent fusions, in reality, Razin is a one-time fusion. He will never expire. He will be there until you decide to fuse him. But once you fuse him, he will go away. However, Relic Keeper and Broadmaw can be fused multiple times. So if you want multiple copies for some reason, you can certainly do that. You can fuse these champions during Clan v Clan or champion chase events in order to get extra points. All of these champions are decent. You'll probably want a Broadmaw at some point for your Lizardman faction crypt because he is a reviver. So if you go here, he has a nice A3 with a 2-person revive. So you'll probably want to run him up to level 50. I can't see too many other uses for Broadmaw. You can use him in spot cases. Some people may get a lot more value out of him than others. But in general, he is a good faction war champ. Razin is an overall progression champ. I said in my video yesterday, you want to start working towards this champion on day 1. He is not the top priority on day 1, but you can start collecting all of the fusion rares and epics that you need to go after Razin Scarhide and try to get him in the first few months of your account if you can. Relic Keeper is a fusion you actually have to do for the Arbiter missions. We'll talk about those in a second. He has a sort of an interesting kit. Some people really like his A1. So if you look at his A1, if he kills an enemy, he gets an extra turn, and then he can A1 again and get an extra turn, and then kill another enemy and get an extra turn. So that can be kind of fun. It's not fast, but it is an option. I think he's been power crept quite a bit. I don't think he's a phenomenal champion. He's kind of fun to mess around with. So those are the 3 permanent fusions. I just wanted to hit those at the top of this video because I talked about Razin Scarhide yesterday. But now we're going to move on to all of the other ways you can get free champions in Raid Shadow Legends. So one of the ways you can get a free champion you already know about. There is a 7-day login reward. So if you just log in for 7 days, there is a special reward. Currently, that champion is still Artak in the Orcs faction. Artak is an amazing champion. You can see I pulled him here on this account after 7 days. He is a legendary and HP burner. Absolutely a champion worth developing, taking to 6 stars right away. He's going to help you progress your account. And he can also be used in endgame dungeons very effectively. So this is an incredibly good champion. Now, by the time you watch this video, Artak may no longer be the 7-day login reward, and there'll probably be a new champion there. That changes about every 3 or 4 months, I think. That's what I want to say is about the schedule. So whatever champion is there at 7 days, that is free. You will always have that champion, and you only have to log in for 7 days to get it. In addition to your 7-day login reward of Artak, at 14 days, you get Yizzo. Now, Yizzo is an epic champion. He's solid. He was fun to watch in the Call of the Arbiter animated series. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and watch that. It's really cool. And the episodes are relatively short, at around 6 minutes an episode. But he was a character that I didn't think much about before the animated series gave him a bit of a backstory. And now I kind of enjoy the fact that he is one of those free champions that you get early in the game. I've heard stories from people who have found a lot of use in Yizzo. I've never personally built him out beyond maybe 5 stars. So you can decide whether or not this is going to be a valuable champion for your account. Now let's go to the other login reward champions. We'll just start there. Over on this tab on the right, you can click on your daily login rewards. And there is a calendar. So every 30 days, you are going to get a reward schedule every day. You can scroll back and see the old months, but it's every 30 days. So it doesn't quite line up with calendar months, but it's just every 30 days, which is nice and consistent. The first champion here that you get at 30 days is High Katoon. Everybody knows this champion. Everybody gets this champion. Everybody uses this champion to some extent. I still think she's a highly valuable champion, not so much because she's an amazing champion. I think she's good, but you get her so early on in your account, and she does something that you may not have any other champions do, and that is turn meter increase and speed boost. She also has a speed in all battles aura by 19%, so this champion can really get your team moving, and that's extremely valuable in raid. So I definitely think she's one of the highlights, even though she's the first champion, and I think sometimes people undervalue her because they figure the first champion they give you can't be that good. I still use her at endgame periodically, but I did use her for the first year of my account pretty heavily, even though I got other champions who did the same job. Having multiple turn meter champions can be a really good thing. The next several champions are decent. You can certainly build them out. They're all good in different ways, but the next really big one to highlight is here, Seal of the Drakes at 180 days. You can see this account, which is one of my alternate accounts, is closing in on the 180-day mark. 180 days is a big milestone in raid, and it's primarily because Seal of the Drakes just transforms your account. She is a phenomenal, super versatile support champion that you can use in almost every location in the game. There are a few places where she's suboptimal, but for the most part, you're going to use this champion a whole lot. Okay, probably you'll use this champion more than 95% of your roster, and that will continue to be true all the way up through end game. So 180 days is a really big milestone, and if you're closing in on Seal of the Drakes, congratulations, you're about to get a phenomenal progression champion, a phenomenal end game champion, and she's a lot of fun to play around. Now, the third champion I'm going to point out here is at 270 days. That is Vizix the Unbowed. She has one of the best and sort of not rarest necessarily, but most specialized A1s in the game. You need a few turn meter reduction champions, and this is a really good one, and you get her for free, and she is a legendary void champion. So her A1 attacks 2 times, and each hit has a 100% chance when booked of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%, and then fills this champion's turn meter equal to the amount the target loses. So basically, she's stealing turn meter. She's reducing the enemy's turn meter by 30%, and then she's getting 30%. The rest of her kit is also good. She's a defensive-based champion. I use her all the time in Doom Tower. I use her all the time against any boss that can have turn meter decrease affect them. So an extremely powerful champion. You can use her in conjunction with Armiger if you've already built Armiger out. Armiger is an uncommon and probably the most, not probably, definitely the most powerful uncommon in the game. And he has a similar A1. So having these two champions on the same team can actually even further increase your mastery or your control of the turn meter. After 270 days, you start on a different path. Now, at this point, you're going to start collecting fragments. So there's going to be fragments. You can see collect 25 fragments every month. So every 4 months, you are going to get a legendary champion. There are also a few epic champions in the mix, and I think you get those just every 2 months. I think an epic only takes 2 months to collect, or maybe 3. I'm not 100% sure. Most of the champions that you collect through fragments are decent. They're definitely worth considering at that point, but you're going to be 9 or 10 months into the game at this point. So you're definitely going to have to take a look at your roster and see if these champions are filling a need or if they're just another good champion in a role that you've already got covered. Okay, so those are all of the login reward champions. Those are the easiest because they just come to you passively. You log in every day and then you get them on those numbered days. So you don't really have to do anything other than play the game, and those champions will just come to you. So that's really great. There are some other champions that you need to get a little bit more active about pursuing, like the fusion champions we talked about at the top of the video, like Raz and Scarhide. There are other champions that really take a bit of effort for you to pursue, but they're worth it. And the first one I'm going to talk about here is probably the most famous champion in all of Raid Shadow Legends, maybe other than Gallic because of the commercials, and that is the Arbiter. So down here in the bottom left, you click on missions. We call these the Arbiter missions, and you can see there is a progress line here. You need to complete a certain number of individual missions. So all of these banners are missions. You need to complete a certain number of those in order to get the Arbiter. It looks like it is 286, maybe something like that, 286, in order to get your Arbiter. Once you complete all of those and collect your Arbiter, you can then continue on to try to collect Ramantu. Now, these are both phenomenal champions. Arbiter is absolutely a champion you want to get as early in the game as you possibly can, but it is investment in time and focus. You have to stay focused on these missions. The great thing about these missions is that each of them is valuable for its own reward. You can get a lot of gems, energy, cash. You can get artifact sets. You can get shards. You can get things here that just help you progress your account from doing the individual missions. So you don't need to think about this whole process, because it's a long process, to be just about getting Arbiter. Another good thing is these missions generally get harder as you go, so it's a good measure of how you are progressing in your account. If you get stuck on a particular mission, that may be because you need to increase your roster. You need to improve your roster, change your team compositions, gear up a little bit. It's also possible to get stuck on a mission just because you didn't time it correctly, like you used a resource that then you have to collect afterwards. So it's a very good idea to preview the next 10 or 20 missions, and you can just kind of scroll through here and look at them to make sure that you're not going to accidentally do something that's going to set you back. And the reason that that's important is because you really do want to get Arbiter as early in the game as possible. I have heard of players who have done it in sub 100 days. I have never even come close to that. I think my best Arbiter acquisition happened in about 150 days, and more on the average of about 180 days. So right around the time I get Scylla the Drakes, I typically pick up Arbiter. And you can see that's true on this account as well. I am 18 missions away from Arbiter. And as you just saw on the other screen when we were looking at Scylla the Drakes, I'm about 8 days or 10 days away from Scylla the Drakes. So I usually get my Arbiter and Scylla the Drakes around the same time. And all of a sudden, with just those two champions, my account takes off. It is a super power boost to your account to get those two champions at the same time. The only struggle there is you may not have enough legendary tomes to book them both out. So that is something to consider. If you can get Arbiter before 150 days or before 120 days, certainly do so. But the only way you're going to do that is by concentrating on these missions and using them as a way to decide where you're going to progress next. As far as Ramantu is concerned, or Ramantu, I'm never sure how to pronounce his name. I kind of switch back and forth. This guy is widely considered as the win condition for Raid by a lot of players. It will probably take somewhere between 2 and 3 years for you to complete the Ramantu Drake's Blood missions. But that gives you something to look forward to. He is an incredibly powerful Void Legendary, but not that many players actually have him, because even if you play for 3 years, you still have to pursue all of these missions. And so a lot of people give up on the way there. They just forget about it. They let the missions drop and they don't pursue them anymore. So it's up to you whether or not you want to do that. There is no real win condition in Raid Shadow Legends, but some people think that this is the closest thing that we have to winning the game. Okay, so those are 2 Void Legendaries that you can get for completely free. But there are 2 other Void Legendaries that you can also get for completely free that you have to pursue. And so I'm going to start with the easier of the 2 to acquire, and that is Mithrala. So Mithrala is in the Dark Elves faction. This is my favorite support in the game. I think she may be my second favorite champion in the game. She's an amazing champion, and she is useful in 99% of content. There's almost nowhere you can't get some value out of her. She's also relatively easy to build. Because she's a support, you can build her relatively tanky, but you can see she has a high HP pool, she has high defense, she has high speed, she already has some resistance and accuracy, and then she also has this passive, which basically says, increases this champion's resistance, the amount by which it is increased is equal to the amount of accuracy the champion has. So if you put accuracy on her, you're actually getting both accuracy and resistance in a 1-to-1 ratio. So every point of accuracy actually gives you 2 points of stats here. It gives you 1 of accuracy and 1 of resistance. This makes her extremely valuable because she really can be used in every place of the game. I use her in arena all the time. She has incredibly high resistance. And because she has an AoE cleanse, that means if I get stunned or frozen or feared, Mithrala won't be affected by those debuffs because her resistance is too high. And then she can remove those debuffs from everybody else on my team. You can use her in conjunction with attack-based champions. You can use her in conjunction with defense-based champions. You can use her in Clan Boss, in Hydra Boss, in Arena, in Doom Tower, in Dungeons. She's the perfect champion. She really is. She's like one of my favorite champions. So the way you acquire Mithrala is through Hydra Clan Boss. And basically, if you can clear any chest, even the lowest one on the lowest difficulty. So here you go to normal, and then you go to the novice chest. If you can get 1.67 million damage on the lowest difficulty, you can still get Mithrala fragments. You will get 1 to 2 Mithrala fragments for each chest that you collect. What this means is that if your clan totally kills off that difficulty level, you get 2 times that chest. It means you're now pulling 2 to 4 shards of Mithrala from the lowest chest available. If you can go up in difficulty or do 2 different difficulties, so let's say you can clear normal and hard, or at least the first chest worth of normal and hard, now you're talking about getting 1 to 2 from this one. You're getting 1 to 2 from normal. If you're doubling that, you can get as many as maybe 8 fragments per week. Remember that the Hydra boss is on a 1-week cycle. So potentially you could be getting, 4, 6, 8 fragments per week. And that means you could collect Mithrala in as little as, say, 10, 12 weeks, maybe. So you could be 3 months away from a top 5 champion in the game. She is totally free. You will use her everywhere. But it does require that you get a Hydra Clan Boss team together that can at least get you a chest at normal. So I highly recommend pursuing Mithrala. I think she is probably the 2nd or 3rd priority in terms of the champions that you have to actively chase. I would say Arbiter is number 1. Mithrala is maybe number 2. Now, they are more difficult, I think, than getting like Raz and Scarhide. So you should get Raz and Scarhide before you get either of those. But Razen's priority, while it's high, is maybe not the top of the list. Okay, so in addition to that, there's another champion you want to consider getting on early on in the game. In fact, there are 2 more, and I'm going to take you to those right now. If you come in here to the arena screen, you can go to Tag Team Arena, and you'll notice that there's actually a bizarre tab here on the bottom left of this Tag Team Arena screen. It's a little bit of a weird place for a shop, but it actually is a shop. So the medals that you collect, the gold bars that you collect, can be spent here. And one of the things that you'll notice is you can buy fragments of a legendary champion here. Now, this is Drexthar Blood Twin. Now, Drex is a great progression champion. Some people continue to use him at endgame. You can certainly get value out of him. He's a defensive-based champion that has a chance of placing HP burns when he's attacked. He's a very good champion. Some people rate him as like a top 25 champion in the game. I have him a little bit lower than that, but he's certainly valuable and certainly worth going after. Now, you can only get 1 fragment of this champion per day. And so what that means is going to take you 100 days minimum to collect Drex. Now, in addition to being 1 fragment per 24 hours, the counter doesn't start until you buy him. So I'm going to go ahead and buy a fragment here. You'll notice I am now on a 24-hour counter. So unfortunately, I wish they would switch this so it just reset with the server, but they're going to make you have to figure out your own timing. So chances are, even if you've got the medals, it's not going to be 100 days. It's probably going to be something like 110 or 120 days of actually trying to accumulate Drexthar. Remember, in order to collect this champion, you do need to be playing 3v3 arena and getting some medals. 360 a day might feel like a lot at first, but remember you also get weekly rewards. So when you get to your end of your first week, you might get 500 or 1,000 additional bars, and that's going to help you in the following week. So if you're pulling down 300 bars a day, that should probably be enough, but that is a bit of a task. So you do have to concentrate on 3v3 arena if you want to get Drex. He's definitely worth it, but some people don't like arena enough, and so they let him slide. You may notice there are 2 rare champions here. You can also collect fragments for 10 at a time. These 2 champions are not necessarily good on their own, but they can be used as part of the Broadmaw permanent fusion. So if you're looking to fuse Broadmaw and you're having trouble getting the void rares, you can come here and in 10 days you can collect each of those. There is another shop with champions in the game, and that is the clan shop. So I'm going to go there next. And when you go to the clan shop, you'll notice there are 2 champions available. There is Yannicka here, and then right over here, there is Yukarl. They are both legendary champions. They are both attack-based nukers, basically, although they have some functional differences. And you can see they are from 2 different affinities. So we have a Spirit affinity in Yannicka and a Void affinity in Yukarl. Both of these champions are pretty solid nukers, actually. So they're good champions to go after, especially if you're missing a nuker in that affinity. They have uses in PvE and PvP. They're both extremely valuable in faction crypts as well, and they are free, so you should go after them at some point. How early in the game you decide that is up to you. Now, one of the things you'll notice is right now I can't collect Yukarl fragments because my clan is not level 9. So if your clan is already level 9, you can decide whether or not you want to pursue Yukarl before Yannicka. Yukarl is 50% more expensive in terms of the metals that you need to do. So that may be a consideration. Also, you'll notice you can collect 5 fragments per day. I'm sorry, per week. It's 5 fragments per week. So you're looking at 20 weeks in order to collect either champion. So you just want to be doing your clan quests, gaining your clan medals, and then come in here and try to decide where you want to spend those clan medals. It can also be a little bit tricky because there are other valuable things you can buy here in the shop, primarily accessories. The accessories here can be very good, especially early in the game. So you may not have enough medals to go after both the accessories and the champion that's available to you or the one that you want. So this may take a little bit longer than 20 weeks, but you should be considering this as a top priority for spending clan medals. Now we come to one of the biggest sources of free champions in the game. The biggest might be the login rewards because every month you're getting a champion there. But there is another source that gives you access to a whole lot of free champions, and that is Doom Tower. So let's go over to the Doom Tower, and I'll show you how that works. Here I am in Doom Tower. I am back on my main account, and as you can see, I am in normal Doom Tower. So there is, this is a tower of, I don't know exactly how many floors. I think it's 120. And as you progress up, there are a ton of resources for you to collect. You can see void shards, energy, potions, gems, silver. And you want to keep progressing all the way to the top. And then at the top here, you get a void shard. And once you unlock all of the normal difficulty, so once you get to 120 and complete it, you then unlock hard mode of Doom Tower. And I'll switch over there now. And you can see there's another tower. It's harder. The floors are harder. The bosses are harder. They are the same bosses in the same rotation. This rotation changes every 4 weeks. But as you can see, I am up to floor 70 here in the hard version of Doom Tower. And again, you push all the way to floor 120. And here you can get a sacred shard. So this is at least 1 sacred shard. And looks like there's another one here. So at least 2 sacred shards and multiple void shards every month. There are also legendary tomes. So you definitely get scaled up rewards when you do the hard level of Doom Tower. But the normal level of Doom Tower is also very valuable. So if you are a newer account, you're probably going to start here. Now you'll notice there is a boss every 10 floors. Not being able to get past those bosses is a problem. So every time you get stuck on a boss, you can no longer get the rewards from the regular floors past that boss. You can do up to 10 floors a day, so it will take you at least 12 days to complete the entire difficulty level that you're doing. So 12 days for normal, 12 days for hard, and that leaves you, a few days, a few extra days, 4 extra days for anything else that you need to complete, or maybe if you miss a day or something like that. Now, one of the things that happens as you progress through Doom Tower is after you complete 5 floors out of each 10, you unlock what's called a secret room. You can see here SR1. You'll go into that secret room. It will get a red dot when you first unlock it. Once you click on that red dot, will disappear whether you complete it or not. And now you're going to find out what the requirements of this room are. So right here, it says beat this room using rare champions only. That means I can use any rare champion I own. I can use any kind of rare champion I own. I can use any affinity of rare champion I own. And I can just pick whichever ones I want. You can use level 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever you have. But obviously, the stronger your champions, the more likely you are to complete this room. So I'm just going to put together a rare champion team here. And I'm going to use all level 60s here. I'm going to go ahead and play this room out. Now, as we're clearing this room, I'm just going to talk about why I'm doing so. So as you clear out these secret rooms, each time you do one successfully, you will receive 3 fragments of a champion. Now, those champions are designated. There is an order to those champions, and you can go online and research what the order is. But you can see right here, there is a line of progress. And so what has happened is I have completed all of these former Doom Tower champions by completing secret rooms, and I am now currently acquiring fragments for ZXG. That's a tough name to say. ZXG. All right, so once you've completed the secret room, you can see it is now completed. It has the check mark. You can go back in there if you want, I believe, and you can play it again, but you're not going to get more fragments. So you can only get 3 fragments one time from a secret room in each rotation. So when the tower refreshes, you can go back into the same secret rooms and get the fragments again. At 3 fragments per secret room, you'll notice how many secret rooms there are. You go all the way up. As you can see, there are 12 secret rooms per difficulty per month. So what that means is in normal Doom Tower, you can clear up to 12 secret rooms per rotation, and that will allow you to collect up to 36 fragments for any given champion. Now, you will always get fragments for the same champion until you complete that champion, but it will only be from that difficulty. So if you clear normal and you get into hard mode has its own champions that it rewards you with. You get epics from normal Doom Tower, and you get legendaries from hard Doom Tower. Okay, now the most important ones for progress, at least, are the first 4 epic champions from the normal difficulty of Doom Tower. If you can collect those 4 champions, you're going to get use out of those 4 epics. They're all great epics. They're all used in different areas. They're all extremely powerful. Well, we are running out of locations to acquire more free champions. We do have one left. I don't think I've missed any. I may have. If I have, put that in the comments below. Let me know I've missed something. But the last one to talk about is one of the best, and that is Lydia. Now, if you go down here to your battle, you want to go to Faction Wars. And here you are in the Faction Wars screen. Now, you'll notice there is a progress bar at the bottom of this, and all the way on the far right, you can see Lydia. Now, Lydia, the Death Siren, is also probably maybe a top 5 champion in the game, definitely a top 7 or 8 champion in the game. She is very, very good. This is another long progress chain, though. This is going to take a while. I got my Lydia almost 2 years to the day when I was playing. I didn't always pursue her so, with so much determination. Sometimes I let it slide a bit. So depending on how much you like Faction Wars and how much you want to progress in Faction Wars, you could definitely get Lydia faster. I've heard of people who have gotten her in a year. I think that's incredibly fast. You're probably talking about at least low to moderate spenders there. For a free-to-play player, I think a more reasonable time frame would probably be around 18 months to maybe 2.5 years. Somewhere in that year, you should be getting her. And it really depends on how actively you're pursuing her and what champions you pull in each faction. So, each faction is going to be progressed in at a different rate. One of the things that you'll also notice about this progress bar is it doesn't seem to be complete. And that is because the Sylvan Watcher Crypt has opened. Now, I completed Lydia before this Sylvan Watcher Crypt was in the game. So they have now extended the bar. It is further than it used to be. There will be a 16th faction, which will probably drop at some point, either at the end of this year, 2023, or maybe in early 2024. I don't know what that faction is going to be. But if we get that next year, then that means when that faction crypt opens, Lydia will be pushed even further away, another 63 stars. So if you are getting close, you definitely want to, pursue Lydia and get her before a new faction crypt opens and pushes her back out of reach. That's it. That is every free champion in the game as far as I can think of, other than the fusions that come every month. Obviously, that is another source of free champions. So Raid really does a good job at giving you access to a lot of free champions. Some are on timers that will expire, but all of the ones in the video that we were talking about today are permanent. They will always be there. Some of them will take a long time to acquire, like Lydia, like Ramantu, like some of the hard Doom Tower champions, like the login rewards at, that happen at 400, 500 days. Obviously, you're going to have to play for a long time to get those. But there are excellent ones that are accessible in the first 6 months or so of the game that you're really going to get a lot of value out of and are going to be a lot of fun to use. Definitely go after your Arbiter. I would say she is the #1 target. After that, maybe think about Razin, Scarhide, and Drexthar as targets, maybe Yannicka or your Carl. And then obviously you can also pursue Mithrala, who I think is a priority target. So those are the ones that I would probably prioritize, along with Archmage Helmet and Doom Tower. Don't want to miss him. He's actually a phenomenal champion, and he's also relatively easy to get early in the game. So let me know what you think. Did you know all of these free champions existed? If not, do you think Raid could be doing a better job to inform you that these champions are out there? Which ones are you most excited about? Have you been pursuing your Arbiter, or have you been pursuing your Razin? You can do that at the same time, by the way. You could be pursuing 4 or 5 of these free champions simultaneously. Are you close to your Scylla the Drakes? Which login champion has been the most impressive to you? Which one has helped your account the most? I love all of those stories. Please put comments in these videos. I love reading them. I get back to as many comments as I can. Also, consider joining our Discord community. The Discord link will be up both at the end of this video in the descriptions and also in the About page on my YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad we got through this one. We've got another one potentially coming later today, but that is it for now. I have been Colred. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you in another video soon.